So one area that I'm very interested in is artificial intelligence, where I think of artificial intelligence as the ability for machines to take decisions like human beings would, and probably much faster without the emotion as well. But that's just my perspective. So can you give me your perspective as to what artificial intelligence, maybe in a quick sentence or two, please?
In two sentences, if I have to say artificial is something that is not natural.
Mhm.
And intelligence, there are 9 types of intelligences. We will not go into them. There are various definitions of intelligences. We will not go into them. To me, if I have to say it in one sentence, it is intelligence is an ability to identify patterns. But when you add artificial with intelligence, then you have a whole new spectrum of things, because then you're coming to something that where you cannot reach normally.
So I don't think, in my opinion, this is a new field. So it's been there, probably called with different names. So can you talk about how artificial intelligence has changed over the last few decades?
Okay, 50 years back, also there was some kind of artificial intelligence, fuzzy logic, Boolean algebra, AND gate, NAND gate, OR gate, NOR gate, memory circuits, logic circuits. We had those. But the entire circuitry and equipment would require a whole building to house them. Today, that job can be done by my mobile. Now, take the case of the engineer who was working on this technology. We had only 3 branches of engineering. We had electrical, we had mechanical, we had civil. Among these 3 people, we had to choose and keep training them and putting them into various fields and eventually get them to work on this kind of technology. Today, our engineers, they've done their hardcore engineering at their bachelor's level. The moment they get into masters, they have a wonderful availability of subjects. They can choose a mechanical engineer or a telecommunications or engineer can choose software engineering, finance, statistics, economics, logistics. So he is very fit for doing a lot of this artificial intelligence jobs because he has gone through the whole gamut. He can also handle finance because he's got his basic engineering mathematics background with him, which perhaps a chartered accountant does not have. Now you imagine you're teaching an engineer finance, statistical packages, economics. Definitely he'll be a very powerful personality for a global finance or national finance, national pension funds and things like that.
So on that note, how is artificial intelligence useful for the economy then?
See, artificial intelligence measures various parameters. It can measure all economic parameters. It can measure how amount of money with the bank, how much it gives on loan, how much of interest it is able to get, how much of recoverable loans are there. It can measure it has got data on the agricultural produce. It has got the data on the consumption of electricity. It has got the data of exports. It has got the data of imports. It works like a supercomputer. All these things can be managed. Now you take the case of a bank. A bank with artificial intelligence, it will hire the best of engineers. It writes tens of thousands of models of artificial intelligence, and each model has got 1,000 pages. Now you do not know what all data is available with the bank and how it will use it. So you not only have the ability to manage the economy, you also have the problem of whether this information that these banks and other offices gather, will they abuse it or misuse it? That is how the economy is helped by artificial intelligence and the ethical dimension of artificial intelligence in economics.
How does it impact public life then?
A very nice question you're asking me today. The public life. You take a high resolution camera, which you put every 50 meters on the public ways. Every road is covered, everything is covered. And what is this camera? It's not only high resolution, it is coupled with artificial intelligence. That means it has got face recognition characteristics. Now, it is very wonderful. It's a very wonderful technology. Suppose a child has been kidnapped 5 years back, and it has grown from 10 to 15. There's a very serious change. Or let us say the child has been kidnapped 20 years back. A 5-year-old child was kidnapped, and today that child should be 25. There's no way of knowing whether with the child's photograph, how that how that child will look now. So they have got models in artificial intelligence that grow for aging and growth, catering for aging and growth. And they have a rough idea of how the child should look now as a 20 or 25-year-old person. Now with this facial recognition abilities in these cameras, they can track the whole world and look for those anywhere in the world and look for where this child is. Take the case of a terrorist. A terrorist has disappeared at the age of 25. He has done some terrorism somewhere and he's disappeared from the scene. You just have a photograph of him when he was 25 years old. Now you can, because of artificial intelligence and these public cameras, you can find out if such a person exists even after 25 or 30 years or even 40 years. You can still find him where he is because of face recognition and growth and aging factors fed into artificial intelligence. So this is how it affects the public life. But there's a great scope for abuse, because then you can seriously make this a police state. So a lot of, if you want to track somebody, you need a court order, and you have to convince the court that you definitely have to track this person and nobody else. It is only then it is a free society.
I like how you say that there's a lot of potential to the technology, especially when it comes to human trafficking. I think some great examples there, right? Saving lives, and bringing people to justice. But also, it's important that it's guided by the right rules, so it's not abused as well. So I really like the examples that you've given. So let's talk about some examples, especially in one field that I'm very interested in, which is the medical profession. So can you talk about the overlap or maybe examples of how AI could be used in the medical profession?
Yes. Now you see, suppose somebody is having some problem with the larynx, his voice box, and he cannot speak, but there are some recordings of his voice. Now with artificial intelligence, you can make a video and put voice into it. Now you have deep fakes. So you take somebody else's head, you take that voice, put it on another body, and you have something going on, some problem. Now artificial intelligence today in the medical field is of very great use, say, for paraplegics, because you have a neuromusculoskeletal disorder. Your brain is not working properly. It is sending out, it is not picking up the signal. The muscles are not picking up the signal. Your bones are not able to pick up the signal. Bones are not able to act because of the signal is not going to the muscles. So you have a muscular. So now the doctors of tomorrow are going to do much more than what the doctors of today are doing. The doctors of today have found a cap with electrodes which are non-penetrative, which are on the surface of the scalp, and they can trigger in very micro or nano areas of the brain to make the arm move. Now they have smart materials for limb. You have smart materials for implants. So the scope is very wonderful. But if this falls into a repressive regime, you're going to have a problem, because then you can control the minds. You can, without a, so if you don't wear the cap, the entire public area's car alarm will go on. So everybody has to roam around with the cap. Now the fabric of the cap is such that it is it is skin breathable. So you can wear it all the 24 hours of the day. You can have a bath with it. There's no problem. Then today we have not tamed nuclear energy for individual use. 50 years from today, we are going to have nuclear batteries that have deadened the lethality of beta rays and used it to trigger, used it to make your scalp cap work for 100 years. So you have a slave for the next 100 years. Now the problem with this is not that it can help the paraplegic. The problem is your thoughts, your emotions, your dreams can be stored. They are not merely captured, they can be stored. Now there are artificial intelligence facilities that are going to predict, because of this thinking, what will your actions be. And artificial intelligence can also narrowcast messages to you. There's no more broadcast. They'll narrowcast messages to you in your mobile, in your internet, your Wi-Fi. It will come only specifically to you to desensitize you from any leaning that you have against a repressive regime, and to sensitize you to the goodness of the regime that you're working in. So these are the abuses that can take place in the medical field. Today, the doctor is you will have an external womb. You have a human egg, you have a sperm, and you develop it outside. Artificial intelligence will give the fetus nutrition, and there's no child bearing pains, pangs, nothing. You give birth, child is born, nutrition is fed, the humidity, the atmosphere is kept appropriate by the artificial intelligence, and all these things are possible. So the doctors of tomorrow are not going to be super specialists at the age of 29 or 30. They are going to be super specialists at perhaps 40, because they would have done molecular medicine, they would have done genetic engineering, they would have done psychiatry plus neurology plus obstetrics and gynecology. So the studies will be much more, because in a repressive regime, you cannot have several people. You will need a doctor who studied for 40 years and he works for 20 years. So in these 40 years, he will be taught so many things that he'll be even taught biophysics. He'll be taught what is human electricity and things like that. He'll be taught nuclear medicine. So medicine is going to very seriously play a role in our benefit, as well as if it is abused by repressive regimes, it is going to cause a lot of problem for humanity.
Yeah, I think again, this is a technology which has a lot of upside, but if not used correctly, if not given the right guardrails, can also be used to the detriment, especially I think of freedom, right? So I think I will not be able to have my own opinion in that case. It almost seems like. And I think those of you who are watching, who are probably interested in this space, definitely read or watch videos or research on Elon Musk's company called Neuralink. There's a lot of research that that company does in this space, and some of the examples that are spoken here are already being experimented by that company. So definitely take a look at it. So on that note, what is the future of artificial intelligence?
What is artificial intelligence today? Semiconductors, electricity, electronics, perhaps microelectronics. But tomorrow it is going to be something totally different. They are going to use light. They are going to use graphene. They are going to use superconductors. And there will be cryogenics to lower the temperature for better working. Artificial intelligence will be very powerful in the future, because they'll be dealing with photons, not electrons.
How can we prevent the misuse of AI?
There are two ways that you can prevent misuse. One is you have legislation, and you legislate everything. You have a forensic audit team. You have this forensic audit team going to banks, checking up anybody who has got artificial intelligence packages or capabilities should be subordinate to this forensic audit team. This forensic audit team should have a retired judge from the Supreme Court and have its own court. This forensic audit team should be highly competent, well paid, and they should be selected through a public service commission. They should be public servants to the government, free from bribes, corruption of any manner. And they should go to every place, audit forensically, and get details. And if anybody is misusing or abusing the information, they should levy a heavy fine. Now, those organizations that can use artificial intelligence, they'll have global operations. So you give them a heavy fine, say 6 to 10% of their global annual turnover as a fine. The next year, if it is found again, so now they are going to be under closer scrutiny, closer forensic scrutiny. So the next year, the next 5 years, they will be under closer. If there's any offense, it goes to 20% of their global turnover. That is one way. You can really be punitive. They will have the fright of their lives, because nobody's going to have global operations, run global operation for free or for a loss. The next way that you can control the abuse or the misuse of artificial intelligence is to appeal to the human intellect, to appeal to the human conscience, and appeal to the human morals that abuse of this is wrong. People are entitled to freedom. This will make only sense in a free society. It will not make sense in a regressive society. These are the two ways that I can think of.
I think that's beautiful. I hope anyone who's listening can, especially if you're a decision maker, please implement one of these to ensure that artificial intelligence, which is by itself a beautiful field of study, is not abused, and in fact is used to the betterment of humanity and of society. So with that, I would like to conclude, but as always, I think it's been a fantastic conversation, great learning. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Agnes.